I'm no longer regulated by any government agency as far as what I say with regards to financial matters. So I'm gonna
Good, good,
just
good.
I'm gonna just tell you guys the truth that they'd
Yeah.
Oh
probably get
yeah.
mad at me for saying when I was licensed, right? Um, at least in my mind, and I view things very libertarian, and I'm probably a little obsessive about some things, but I would argue that there is a strong case that the United States has been bankrupt since 1971, and literally everything that has happened financially since then is nothing but bullshit in a house of cards.
Is that when we went off the gold
It is.
reserve?
Right, it is. I mean, just look at it this way, right? Me and you are two parties, and you come over to me and say, Mike, I need a gold coin to go do this thing, but I'll tell you what, you're a good dude. If you give me this gold coin, I'll give you 2 gold coins back in 2 years. And I say, okay, hey, great. So then I come to you 2 years later and I say, hey, Wall Street bitch, remember that gold coin I gave you? You told me you were going to give me 2 gold coins. I'd like my 2 coins. And if you said to me, Mike, here's a piece of paper that says that it's supposedly 2 gold coins, but I don't actually have any gold. Like, is that not a default? Did you not default on our agreement? Now,
if the U.S. is broke since 1971, then the whole world is, right? And what does that even mean, though?
well, I mean,
we all owe each other money.
yeah, I mean, well, when you look at the substance of the debt, because that brings to part two. So that's my first argument, which is like the pessimistic, hey, we're actually broke. And I think that at least from a pure monetary standpoint is 100% true, right? In that scenario, if France had, hey, we loaned you $1 billion worth of gold, and we responded, hey, we're not going to give you $1 billion worth of gold. We're going to give you $1 billion of our fiat, but we won't drop nukes on you if you say yes, right? Like that's kind of our arrangement in 1971. You know, that brings us to the how do we come out of it? And this is something I've been screaming about since like 20 years ago, right? Like 20 years ago when I at the time, I think I tended to vote Republican because at least Republicans were saying they were for limited government and, you know, saying some things, and they just don't do it. But back then, the math on how to fix it was a lot easier, right? Like doing the math to make a budgetary surplus and paying off the debt, like the math worked. The math really doesn't work anymore right now. And there's a few things that could maybe make it work, right? Like the biggest holder of our debt is actually us. Like the largest holder of US debt is the US government. So, you know, part of it is like, well, if you owe it to yourself, is it even real in the first place, right? So, I mean, part of it maybe can be, you know, dealt with through accounting magic.
And isn't it a positive if another country, if like let's say China, we owe a lot of debt to China, then in some sense they're invested in our success because they want their money back. Isn't that an aspect of this? Like if we fail, then China is fucked out of their money, so they want us to, like, you know, at least get by.
That's the idea and the incentive to keep the house of cards in a vacuum, for sure.
Okay,
but I mean, it's still a house of cards, right? And I think we're seeing it more and more with recent activity. You know, like the Fed would love nothing more. The Biden administration would love nothing more than to drop rates right now to 3%. Right? Like to just drop rates back to 3% so people can buy houses. So they would love nothing more. Yeah. But if they did that, the entire economy would collapse. That's why they don't do that. It's why you don't just play around with monetary policy. And that's where, you know, I think a lot of libertarians have said it ever since Ron Paul was big on it, right? End the Fed, right? Like I think a lot of libertarians are pretty unanimous on end the Fed. I think that's obviously a good solution, but ending the Fed like right away, I mean, any real radical change is going to have a painful transition. It's silly to think it wouldn't. You know, I think if you have a transition where you just tell the Fed, hey, we're not going to end you yet. You want to keep this fiat experiment going. I think the first thing that they should do is, you know, we're not going to end you, but we're going to stop you from printing money. Period. You are not allowed to counterfeit dollars anymore. You're removing the power. And if you just gave them a single mandate rather than trying to control interest rates, control all these things, you say your single mandate is to maintain stability of the dollar towards a specific basket of commodities, right? Whether it's oil, hog futures, whatever. You design this. And again, as a libertarian, I hate it because it's central planning. but we're central planning now, right? So let's at least central planning in a way that tears some of this this down.